the gates of hell. God knows what it's like there, but my experience with alcohol took me to a point where I was so low, so black, so ready to give up on life. I was tortured by it for many years. And towards the end, where I nearly lost my life, it's almost indescribable how I lived, really. I don't know how I'm here, how I survived, and how much weight I lost, and how much of my life disappeared. Mental health was shot, terrible anxiety, and all the other problems I had to go with alcohol abuse. But like a lot of us on here, we start this experiment with alcohol at 14, 15, maybe to get rid of social anxiety, or maybe it's because it was a done thing. And it's everywhere, isn't it? At all occasions, all social events, and it's very, very widely available. Some of us can carry on socially drinking, but I didn't. I always wanted to stay a bit later in the pub, and just didn't want the night to end, if that makes sense. I enjoyed the buzz. Even when I was 40, when I took my first drink with my dad, it was a holiday place in Norfolk, I think it was, or it might be in Wales. I had a pint of Guinness, I felt really good. I felt this sort of relaxing feeling, this, wow, I enjoy this. And as I got a little bit older, I thought drink would bring me out of my shell, really, and enhance my life. That's what we do, and that's what we do it because we think it's going to be good, and it is good. When we're young, we have some good times. But it's knowing when to stop, isn't it? If you don't know when to stop with anything, and you can't moderate it, you're going to get ill. Same with people who eat too much, gamble too much, smoke too much, take too many other drugs. So alcohol has to be limited. Once it gets a hold of you, as my dad used to say when he was alive, once it gets a hold of it, you're pretty knackered. You're pretty knackered. And I've gone through these 5 steps before in the past quite a lot. Stage 1 is a social drink, which I did for a long time. 15, 16, 17, 18, through about maybe early 20s. And then when I joined the police, I met sort of older people who drank a bit more than I did. And I was quite a young, moderate heavy drinker, which I would say moderate is 2, stage 2, heavy stage 3. And I was kept at that level for a long time because I was fit and I didn't have terrible withdrawal. I had hangovers, but I just thought that was a normal way to live. And I was also working shifts, working long hours. So I thought part of the hangover symptoms were just the way I was working, living in domestic circumstances, all that sort of thing. And it wasn't until later on that I realised I passed point 3 and gone to 3.5, which is when you're drinking heavily and you realise there's some little niggles coming in, there's some problems coming in, a bit of sick leave, problems with your partner, a few financial issues. And that's the dangerous part, stage 3.5. I don't know why I framed it like that, but that's what I think of it. You drink too much and you know you're having problems. You've gone maybe a bit past hangover into withdrawal, and some days on my days I used to have like a bit of the hair of the dog. Not just on holiday, it was, the next day, and I thought, it's getting a bit dangerous this. I used to pull myself back. I used to come to the northeast for long weekends, sometimes Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and driving back on a Sunday I was dreadful. I used to pull up my parents' driveway and turn around the corner and get my wife to drive, and stop at the nearest service station or off licence and get some more cans. And I would just sit in the passenger seat and just steady myself up, if that makes sense, get home. I remember once I stopped at this service station, I hadn't had a drink for ages. I used to take a long time to get down the A1 with a little Ford Fiesta. It was crazy with 2 dogs in the back. And I could hardly get out of the car, I fell out of the car. I was so dehydrated and ill, and I had such a long session from the Friday, Saturday and the Sunday. I thought I'll have to have a getting house. We live in South London. Got out a few cans. I sat up till about 2 o'clock in the morning. I was on nights the next night, Monday night, starting at 10 p.m. And I thought, I've got to get myself to bed, I've got myself pulled together, So I slept from about 3 a.m. all the way through to sort of 6 p.m. the next day. That was like, 15 hours sleep? On and off, of course. And I still felt terrible. But I managed to pull myself together, get out of a shower and get to work, and I was all right. After sort of a few hours at work, I was like back in action, if that makes sense. So then, that was early 30s I was then, so I was really starting to have these quite severe withdrawals. I didn't realise. Went to the doctors, because she badgered me to go, and the doctor said, well, you've got to stop drinking. I told her what was happening. You've got to realise, it's doing you no harm, it's doing a lot of harm, doing you no good. You're going to stop. You just cut down and come back to the doctors in 2 weeks' time. Give an appointment for 2 weeks' time. Anyway, I thought I knew better than them. The doctors, I didn't go back. I thought I'll try and do it myself. I'll try and calm it down myself. I just calmed it down a little bit. And when I started to learn German, I don't know, for some reason just to take my mind off the drink, but I still drank. And then it would just build up again. So I didn't actually stop. It went down a bit, then would build up again. And then a few years later, I came up north to have a bit of annual leave. And I was going to just stop. I didn't realise if you stop, you would have a seizure. And actually, I was 40 then. I went to my parents' house. They wouldn't allow me to drink, obviously. I had no drink for a while. I had a couple of bottles in my case, but I thought I'll go down to town and I'll be all right. On the way down there, I started to feel really shaky and faint, and I collapsed. And apparently I had a seizure. And it was a very hot day. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I was so frightened about this, I didn't want to go to hospital. So I signed a disclaimer with the ambulance service. I mean, I knew all about this because I've been telling the police. And I got my dad to pick me up. It's about half a mile away. He picked me up, went back to their house. 3 hours later, about 6 o'clock, I said to my dad, can you take me to the hospital? I feel really ill. And I remember getting in the car and nothing else after that. And he'd driven to the hospital with me in the car and got some porters to get me out of the car. I'd completely just blacked out and had a seizure again in hospital. I was in there for a few hours and they gave me some Valium. And I went to see the doctor next day. And she gave me diazepam. I'd never had, and told my dad how to administer it. You sort of taper off with the pills. So I asked the doctor, what is this diazepam? She says, it's like alcohol in liquid form, but it'll stop you having these massive withdrawals and seizures. Oh, that's good. And I was off for a couple of years. I stopped drinking for a couple of years. Then went back on a bit. And then once I retired, I came off the drink again. And I went back on again. So every time I was on and off, I'm getting these diazepam. About 20 years 6, I decided, right, I'm going to just completely give it up. And I gave up for 8 years. I was going to the gym, going to the hotel place and having a sauna, steam room and all that. And I felt really good. And then 2014, I met somebody and he said, we'll fit together, basically we're doing well together, we'll have a good relationship. He said, the only thing I miss is not having a drink. So I told her I was getting super fit. And when I drink, I made it up. I didn't tell her I was an alcoholic. I had drink issues. So basically, that's how I started again. And then a few weeks later, I was drinking again, fully on it. I mean, like drinking all day again. After 8 years sober, it was so quick, it crept with me so quick. So I thought, well, get back from holiday, I'll go to the doctors and just ask for some diazepam again. But I mean, I hadn't had any for 8 years. And they refused to give me it. So I made a point to see another doctor. She refused to give me it. I think I still see the doctor refused. Not as a doctor, but he's retired now. I speak to him, nothing you could do about it. It was just policy at the time, wouldn't give you this diazepam. So I self-medicated with alcohol. I was on, a little bit off. Never off fully, but trying to taper it down. That didn't work for years. I did that. When I got this umbilical hernia, 2017 sort of thing, started a little bit. And people don't notice that 2 years later, I had this massive umbilical hernia. And my stomach had started to stretch, very distended stomach. And one of the guys in the pub said, you look really ill. And that's somebody else, for a second opinion, you like when you're drinking. I was drinking just then to survive. I had a terrible time in the flat. I had rats in the flat. I hadn't looked after myself for months, even years really. Not really spoken to anybody, and I was a bit isolated. In 2019 I went to hospital, and they told me I had liver cirrhosis, which is a massive problem. And then in hospital I had more seizures, and that's when I knew about the gates of hell. I felt I was living in hell for about 5 years, from when I started drinking again after the 8-year period. Nothing was going right, and my illness seemed to get worse. And then eventually found some way of sorting out the liver by putting a little stent in it, and that worked and got rid of the fluid, and I started to eat a bit more. And my dad passed away 14th of July 2021, which is just last Monday gone, 4 years anniversary of that. I thought I'm going to get myself strong, got myself out of the wheelchair, started to walk a little bit. Managed the funeral and all that. A few months later I got back into a new property, and so the biggest thing was to eat. I thought, I'm going to recover, I'm going to have to eat. That was the only way I could get back to some sort of semblance of order, really. I did that and I got stronger over time. But the whole of that time, from 2014 to 2019, was a living hell. It really was. because I felt so down, I felt depressed, I felt suicidal. My body deteriorated, I was very deconditioned. My mind had gone completely. And the anxiety started when I was in London, really, when I was in the Met. So then when I travelled on public transport, I felt nervous, felt dizzy, didn't fancy going to big shops. It took a couple of years for the anxiety to settle down, really. But it settled down reasonably quickly, considering how long I'd had anxiety for, because alcohol does cause more anxiety. You drink to get rid of the anxiety, then it causes more problems. So if you're starting to feel that you're getting these symptoms, you're starting to feel that you're drinking too much and it's causing you problems, get in touch. That's the time you've got to really put the brakes on, because it's not a good experience. And at the end of the day, I nearly died. I know people have died much younger than me of alcohol issues. People have had strokes, heart attacks, not just the liver, It affects the pancreas. It's linked to a lot of cancers, kidney issues, blood disorders, all sorts of things, accidents and suicides. The list is endless, really. So I do one-to-one mentoring and support. I've got an ebook out as well. If you like the videos or you benefit from them, then please like and share them. And I do some lives as well. I start to do them a little bit, where people can join in and throw a few questions in and chat to each other, which is good. And I will speak to you all very soon. Thanks very much.